St. Thomas was settled by Mormons. The leader of the church, Brigham Young, sent about a dozen or so men and women down to the Muddy River to settle this area. He wanted to establish a trade route along the Colorado River, which was about 20 miles from this location. This location is like the confluence between the Muddy River and the Virgin River. So they settled here and started growing lots of different crops and things and mining. And it was determined about 10 years later that this area was actually part of Nevada. Boundaries were not quite clear back then, and so some tax collectors came around and demanded that the residents pay back taxes to Nevada, and the taxes were quite high. They decided that next day to abandon the city or the town. It wasn't worth it to pay the taxes, at least not to the tax collector who they couldn't trust, and move on because of, and to move on. There was a few people who did stay behind, and it wasn't very much longer that other people would come and live here. And the town actually had about 500 citizens at one point. They had stores and schoolhouse and lots of different buildings, and hopefully we'll see some of those foundations while we're here. Right here we're entering what would be the high point of Lake Mead. This is about the highest point that the water has ever been, so just a little ways off of that bluff. And the valley would be 60 to 70 feet underwater at the high water mark. There's a seashell, and if you look right here among these rocks, you're able to see quite a few little shells. And right over here is an old boat ramp. That section that goes just right down there. It's hard to believe that this could be full of water, full of Lake Mead. This is the driest it's been for the longest time.
Down here where the trail is, in the dirt, there's a ton of shells. In the mud that used to be the floor of the lake.
This sign here is talking about the farming in this area, and they would farm a lot of cotton and could make over 300 pairs of denim from one bale of cotton or lint, and 1 year they could harvest 500 pounds of lint of cotton. They also had vineyards and all sorts of grains and produce. Along the trail they have lots of different signs that the National Park Service has put up, and this one is talking about the Hoover Dam and what happened to the town. And the government decided to build the dam. They knew that the waters would come up and overtake this town, and the government did pay fair market value for the land in this area. Some people moved their houses along, and some people stayed to the very end. And this sign, the guy here at the bottom, says that he lit his house on fire and floated away on a boat as the water was lapping at his door. Old tree stumps. And this looks like it's our first foundation.
Appears to be a foundation of one of the houses. We're still quite a ways from the river over there, the Muddy River, but looks like this was where a house was built. So this here says St. Thomas was once covered by more than 70 feet of water. Lake Mead, time and again in this area here, has receded and then engulfed this small town. It's actually 54 miles from the Hoover Dam to here, and so the lake comes up and down. Over the years they had a reunion for people that left here in the 1960s, and other people have come to see the area. Sometimes it's underwater, sometimes it's barely has any, and like now you can't even see where the water is. It's so far away. Here's another foundation for a house that was here. You got the foundation, probably a cellar underneath, and then the house was built up on top. And there's a well. Ooh, ooh, ooh. So there's the foundation there, and they've actually got a picture right there of what the house looked like. So these pieces of wood sticking up here are all stumps. They planted trees to line the roads, so there must have been a road going that way down there, and then another road that went this way along here. There's a couple foundations here still in the ground, and this sign talks about the water they used. So this was a big well here in the community, and you can see some pictures here of the framework and stuff around it, and they would just lower the bucket down and get the water out. So this is actually a cistern, not a well. So they would go and haul buckets of water from the river up here and then store it in the cistern next to their house, so they had water closer to hand and they didn't have to go clear down to the river every time they wanted a drink. Here's some rusty old car parts, but I'm guessing that V8 engine right there is probably from the 60s or 70s. It actually has a GM casting number on it, so we could find out for sure. But it looks like, with it tied to this cable, it was probably some kind of a homemade anchor when this was covered underwater. So this foundation here is just like a pad of cement. Looks like some wood bolted to the edges here. There's a slanting hole right here in the front, or a slanting piece of cement here, and a hole. We're guessing this was the town's garage. You probably pull in one way, come through. This was probably a pit in the ground where you could stand under the cars to work on them and stuff, and then the rest was cement, so you could do the other repairs on cars and stuff in here.
I'm right here.
And they had their own cistern over here too.
Right here. See? And it comes out, so there's probably steps.
There's another foundation here. There's the step going up. Almost looks like a little porch area right here. And then the house, and it looks like they used lava rock to build it up and support it where the walls were built. So they just stack the rock in place, pour some cement around it, and then they can put wood or maybe even bricks right on top of the foundations there that are made out of rocks. And their cistern there, it looks like it was built right onto the house, kind of.
They're all dry.
This section right here is made out of different rocks, so maybe this piece back here was added on later. And over here is a little shed. According to the little map we had, this is the blacksmith shop here.
Okay.
And over there's another little pad of cement. Here's this other pad of cement next to the blacksmith shop. And it's got a hole in the middle of it too. I don't know what it would have been used for. So this is the schoolhouse here. It's got a pretty good foundation left here. There's not much else, but it was a impressive building. So there's a picture of the schoolhouse when it was good. It looks like it was 2 stories high. So had this cement foundation. The rest of it looks like it was brick. There's a few bricks laying around, but not very many. They may have taken it down and taken the bricks with them when they left.
Another story I read about the town was the postmaster was selling postcards or something. I should look this up. But he was selling things and made a stamp special for the last day of mail leaving from St. Thomas. And he stamped those postcards or any of the mail the day that the water was coming right up to the town, threw the mail in the car, drove off, and threw the stamp in the water. So somewhere out here could be that stamp that he used to cancel all those postcards and mail that day. Those remains are of the St. Thomas post office, and the story goes that after he canceled all the letters, he threw the stamp out into the rising waters. So they're wondering if they can find the stamp real quick, looking around where the waters would have been. Yeah, they're not going to find it. On this sign, it shows what the postcard looked like and the cancellation stamp. So June 11th, 1938.
So here was the Gentry General Store, and I was hoping we could get a drink, maybe some chocolate milk and a donut or something, but it looks like they ran out. I don't see any in there. Right here by where the general store was, on this piece of cement, you can see how many shells there are. There's tons of those shells here. So this is the foundation of the hotel. It was the Gentry Hotel, same guys who built the general store. 14-room hotel. And after the Arrowhead Trail got finished and more people were traveling through here, it actually got busy enough they had to hire help. And this right here is what that hotel looked like. That's a pretty fancy looking building. So this looks like the cistern for the hotel, which is a pretty good sized one until it filled up with dirt. And then here's a bunch of pieces of broken glass and stuff that people have found and stacked up here. It's like there's metal and glass and all kinds of things. This here is the foundation of the Gentry home. So they had the general store, the hotel, and looks like a pretty good sized house here too. And there's another foundation right over here. And there's, I'm not sure what these are. 2 rows of cement there, 2 rows there. So it's almost like a walkway coming up here. And this, I'm not sure what it is. It's got, looks like it's just a foundation for a house. Probably there's some steps and different rooms and stuff there, and a big cistern over here. So another big house over here. So right over here on these hills, as we're walking out, you can see different levels. So like the water was at one level for a while and kind of eroded everything away and made a step. And then you can see 2 or 3 different steps here. Kind of neat how the water would do that, considering now you can't even see the water. It's just not anywhere around. So I'm guessing that right here where this edge is, looking around and everything, I'm guessing this is probably the high mark where the water is, right here where I'm standing. So this whole valley, all of this, all the way across there, should have been filled with water at one point. That'd be really cool to see. So here we are. We ended up going down the road about 6 miles from where we were at St. Thomas to get to where we can see the water. It actually goes a little bit closer to St. Thomas in here, probably 3-4 miles away. Anyway, so that's where we are here. So this is Lake Mead. It is, right now you can see over here on that hill across the way from us all the different lines from the different levels. So it is a little lower right now, but it does make for some interesting here. There's a couple little islands. that are sticking out that would probably be buried if it was fuller. So anyway, pretty neat area. A lot of water in here. Like we said earlier, we're still probably 40 miles from the dam, so that's quite a bit of water.
We read somewhere that says that when Lake Mead is at its fullest, it's one of the largest man-made lakes in the U.S. But if you look through here too, you can see different levels. So we could be standing in water if we were at the high water mark.
Yeah, if the water was a little, if the lake was a little fuller, we might be in the water where we're standing.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this historical tour of St. Thomas, and thanks for coming along. Share your adventures with us.